As children, when we enter the world, many of us weren't trained for trauma, nor were we handed a manual on how to be prepared. We weren't informed that at any moment in our life, and everything we thought we knew about it could be altered. Altered to the point we no longer even recognized ourselves. We no longer gazed at life with beauty and wonder. That childhood joy of rainbows and unicorns would become a place many of us would harbor shame and unworthiness. There is a great cost you carry when trauma defines you. But when you're young, it's hard not to let it. I carried a huge burden. It led to a path of destruction leading into adulthood. A tainted view of myself and bad experiences along with many failed relationships, including the one with myself. Majority of us weren't handed a robe when we enter the world given by someone as humble as, let's say, Mr. Miyagi. Nor were we obtaining valuable principles of life. For an example, wax on, wax off. In The Karate Kid, Daniel wants to learn karate. Instead, he was having to do what he thought to be very small and significant chores and tasks. It wasn't until later he would discover he was unawarely learning the art of karate while he was doing his chores. He was frustrated and upset prior to that, and he didn't even notice the whole time it was teaching him the skill as well as the lesson. It's not until down the line that we realize some of our most traumatic things taught us much more than we would have ever learned if we hadn't gone through it. It forced many of us to make changes in our life. It's in that moment what we counted as a loss was in all quite actually the opposite. All it did was force you to lay down your own foundation and rebuild. And as we're on this journey, we start to understand that it wasn't even something you wanted. It was a weak foundation. And you were going to make sure that this home was a hell of a lot stronger. And as you're looking back at the old, you realize it's not a place you even miss or ever want to go back to. And when it's all said and done and came crashing down, who cares? The home was made up of lies. It had abuse, tears, and pain. And it was always dark. It was always raining. And many times, like the song says, rain, rain, go away, come again another day. We knew that the rain was always there, even if he tried to manipulate it. We always knew, despite the manipulation in the little sun, there was always rain. We had to learn how to act like it was sunny out when we ever left and went outside. Outside, we were supposed to be really, really sunny. And we were supposed to radiate. And most of all, radiate over him. So many days, I just wanted a little bit of warmth and light. I just wanted a little sun. And anytime it did manage to come out and you started to feel a little better, then the cold front would whip on through and blow out any of the light radiating in you that it saw. You see, the cold front needed to take your warmth because they were made of ice. You see, they lack the ability to have what you have. And they hated you for it. They were jealous of it. So anytime they would see you start to enjoy the home, they would instantly turn out your light. They wanted it dark because they knew that if had you had light, you would break free. You would begin to see. You would get away from the toxic things and actually have a mind of your own. You see, deep down in that, he knew that light overcomes dark, that God is bigger than the devil, that good is better than evil. He knew it, and so he wanted to shackle you down and destroy any bit of hope or anything he saw in you. Because he knew that if he can make you as weak as him, then you'd always be there. He also knew that that light was the very thing that would expose his true nature. He can only dance in a little bit of light for so long before he comes undone. And I've watched him become undone well too many times to be manipulated anymore. So his best tactic is to keep you in fear and doubt, faithless, trapped in the fact that you will not survive on your own. To remind you that everyone around you talks badly about you and thinks you're a joke, as well as remind you of how you're not equipped and remind you of every mistake you ever made in your life. And remind you of how unworthy you are. Because God forbid you jumped into the unknown. He tries his best to rip you down spiritually, physically, mentally, only because underneath the mask lies a weak little boy trapped inside of a man's body who used his aggression to get his way. He used tantrums like a 5-year-old, 4-year-old, because he couldn't handle the word no. He couldn't understand people have feelings and other people have their own ideas. It's not just his idea. It's not just about him. And he couldn't understand that the home was for both of us. And it was something we vowed to not ever hurt and destroy. And as he sits there and mocks the God, the only thing holding on to you as you're holding on to it in tears, praying, you start to see and realize there's no length he won't go to destroy you and everything you have inside. And as you watch him enjoy laughing at the expense of your pain, you realize that this home you thought was going to be a new venture was a home that almost felt filled up with bad entities. You begin to realize that you are actually on opposing teams. Now you're covering your faith with a very tight grip because you know that without it, you will not make it. You recognize something is so much bigger than you, and you always have. And so if you lost that, then surely you would have nowhere to run or go. And if he took that one unconditional love that got you through everything, then there would be nothing left to get you through. So what do? You're holding onto your faith as loudly as you or as covered as you can. And you're denouncing anything that is opposite of God back off of you. Because you know how much he's taken. And you know the lengths he'll go. But you're not going to allow it anymore. You realize that somewhere along the way, he might have left a door open. And the longer that you are in this home with him, you're exposed as well of that entity possibly getting into you. So you held on tightly to the only thing you had at that point, which was your faith. So you learned over time that it was never best to show your cards. It was never best to give them any kind of emotion. Because let's be honest, these people thrive off of emotion. Good, bad, it didn't matter. To just not engage with him. To become like a walking mummy. Become so uninteresting that he would get so bored, it would force him to try to find someone else. Deep down, you always wanted him to love you. And you loved him so much you gave him everything. But in the process of giving him everything, he tried to take everything from you and didn't even care. So then you realize that at this point, the only option you have is to love yourself. So at this point, you're living like a walking dead mummy. Because he can't get the joy he got whenever he'd watch you unravel. Because you're not feeding him what he desires, which is that constant drama roller coaster. You have become so unentertaining. And deep down, you know, if you become emotionless, he will be forced to look outside. And at this point, once he realized there was nothing else to gain, that he had already taken everything he could possibly take, so he thought, that is when the house came crashing to the ground.
You're laying in the debris. You're thinking about it all. You're thinking about everything you gave. You're thinking about the horrendous things he did. You're thinking about how this house that is up in flames and everything you did and you worked for, and it's just total wreck. Total wreck. It's on fire. And you're just sitting here saying, what a waste. And as he gets up and dusts off, he has a grin on his face because he thinks he won, because you're crying. You're crying. And he's loving it. And he's probably thinking that you're going to be calling him or, no. You're just laying there. And he's just thinking he left you the best way ever, your house destroyed, and he thinks he took everything. Seeing me lay there. But what he didn't realize is I'm human, and I am going to lay there for a second. I'm going to lay there. I'm going to lay there for my own self. I'm going to lay there because I don't need to just instantly say I'm okay and move on to the next. I'm going to lay there because I'm human. I'm going to lay there and I'm going to cry. I'm going to lay there and I'm going to talk to God. I'm going to lay there and I'm going to try to find hope. Try to find purpose. I am going to lay there till I'm ready to get up. And that's what I did. And when I was ready to get up, I said, if you're going to get up, you're going to stay up. And you're not going to turn around. So we know what's back there. Just as I was getting up, I remembered I still had my faith. And he didn't realize. Thought he took everything. No. I realized my faith was still there because I got up. I did. And, when I think about it, holding that faith, knowing I had it, I sat there and told myself, I said, you know what? He did take a lot. He took about just everything he could for me. But the only thing that ever mattered, that had any significance really, was my faith. Because without it, I wouldn't have had the strength to get up. So here he is thinking he won. No, you didn't. You didn't, because you didn't get to steal it from me. I still had it. And I took that faith and I worked endlessly to never look back.
Realize that at the moment that house collapsed, when everything was up in smoke, when all you could see is just ashes, all I could think about was the death. The ashes I saw, the death of everything. And then I just saw the beauty in it. The beauty in the ashes. That most of the time when you think of death, you think of a loss. But no, this death was a birth for me. And this death, there's a lot of pain, but so much beauty in it. The day was hard, but a little lighter. When I look back and I sit here and think, there's absolutely nothing that I want to go back to now. The place, that house, was a nightmare.
So day by day, hour by hour, you realize each day you're getting stronger. And as you look back, you realize how much that home had to go and how that home was a complete nightmare. And you were grateful to be out of it. And, along the way you find many people that kind of smile at the expense of your pain. They kind of like to see you down. But the joke was on them, because moving out of that home was a big upgrade. A big upgrade. Because this home, you're going in it and you're more aware than you have ever been. So you know not to build the house cheaply. You also know that there are people that roam the earth, and the last time one of them destroyed your home. So this time, you're no longer building it with wood. No, you're going to build it with bricks. And, you no longer believe in people's words. No, you're going to actually want to see actions. It's because this house won't just let anyone inside. This house knows that respect is not just given anymore. Respect is earned. And this house knows that if you're going to be coming inside, you're going to have to get to her level. And because of that, part of growing, you're growing, you have to leave some things behind. And this house had to do that because she knew, one, her worth, and two, she didn't desire those people anymore in her life. She recognized real is real and fake is fake. She didn't need numbers. She needed quality people in her life that genuinely supported her, that genuinely had her back. And if it wasn't anything other than that, she didn't want it in her life.